Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Full Out Healing Show and Podcast. I'm your host, Sable, where I share about my healing journey as a survivor. Now, this is 100 Days of Truth, day 26, and this is episode number 21. Pretty big deal. And today's episode is actually another healing tool of the day. And this healing tool is so near and dear to my heart. And it is listening to, talking to, and comforting little Sable. Now, the first time I had been really introduced to this idea, I was actually watching Mary J. Blige documentary on Prime Video, and it was days after my ex-wife almost killed me. And I was so struck by how Mary talked about her little child, like her inner child, little Mary. Like, she was so fiercely protective of her. And she literally said, "That's my daughter." And when I heard that, it really hit deep. And that was like the beginning of my relationship with myself, where I really started to learn and stepped into being a parent to little Sable. Like, she is my daughter. I like to say I'm a full-time single mom raising little Sable, raising myself. And it is a full-time job. But yeah, let me get more into this. So, and for the healing tool of the day episode, I'm going to talk about the dilemma that brought it up, my old strategy, that moment of surrender, my new strategy, what it does for me, and my invitation to you. Okay. And so the dilemma for this is pretty easy. It's quite possibly any moment of overwhelm and frustration with my damn self. It also really comes up when I'm navigating I'm navigating a challenge in my life that I can like directly trace back to the abuse. And so one pretty big one is like navigating financial challenges for me. And like, it's so connected to the experience of abuse that I have. Like, maybe I'll do an episode on that one day, but you know, the abuse is expensive, which is another episode I'll do, and it devastated my finances. And so that's something I am navigating. And some days I have peace and acceptance, and some days it's like a struggle bus, you know, it really is a journey. Also, another dilemma that brings this up is because of on those hard days of navigating the current challenges related to the abuse, that right behind that is like negative judgment of a younger version of myself, of that made a decision that contributed to this current scenario. Just like really harsh judgments of younger versions of me. Yeah. And so what was my old strategy in dealing with that? What else but to criticize, to judge, to shame myself. I was so almost like my inner world, like I almost resorted to scolding myself in the face of these challenges. And I really punished myself by restricting joy and pleasure because I did a bad thing. I had a bad character trait, and that caused this negative thing in my life I'm experiencing. So bam, like your joy and pleasure, like I would restrict my joy and pleasure because it's almost as if I lost trust in myself. I didn't trust myself to experience those things because then I would get too relaxed and I would just never fix whatever it is I messed up. I would also, quite close to that, I would deny myself rest, you know, and denying myself rest would look like, oh, I can't go to sleep until I finish this, or I'm not allowed to enjoy this show or go on this walk or do this because I need to do something, right? Or just really ignore the need for rest. Like, I would make plans for myself to work through entire weekends because I fell behind and I need to make it up, you know? And the tricky part about catching up with work on the weekends is when you're an entrepreneur and you own your own business, that's literally forever. Like, it doesn't end. It's not like, you know, like you have a project you have to give to your boss and it's that season. It's like, I am the boss I need to give a project to, and it is always that season. And so it's just never ending. And also the inverse of that is I would make myself earn good things. I would make myself earn good things, even if it's you can't catch up on this text until you've done all these things, or you can't reach out to people, or you can't watch this. It's just like I would have to make myself earn good things and attach me producing something to those good things. And tied to that, I also kind of would make myself earn the right to certain identities. And so in order to be like a good friend or a good daughter or to be a real a yogi, you know, I would have to do or perform certain things. Like if I dropped off on text, that means I was a bad friend, you know, and I had to, I could only believe that I was a good friend. I could only believe that my people cared about me or loved me if I did something to prove that is the case. That sounds awful. And it was just struggle bus city. Okay. And just something really challenging to unlearn because it was so deeply entrenched in my ways of being. Like, how do you unlearn that, you know? And I found in my journey, it wasn't easily or softly. I, of course, had a moment of surrender. And my moment of surrender came last summer, where I did this sort of like 9-week healing process journey with a Yana Van Zant called Rites of Passage. And what was beautiful about that, there are lots of great things about the program, but one of the great things about it is that it was aligned to the different stages of like girlhood and womanhood. And each week and it was also tied to chakra work too. So literally each week I did readings and reflections, and most importantly, journaling to myself at different ages and stages of my life. And that, it just totally transformed me. I had never spoken to myself. I'd never held myself at different stages of my life that had passed. And when I finally did, it wasn't shocking, but I was surprised. Like every time I met little Sable at those different ages, she was afraid. She was overwhelmed. She was tired because homegirl has been running the show in my life. She has been trying to protect me and trying to do adult things because I hadn't shown up for her yet. And that realization really blew me away. I felt so sad and I felt so bad for her, and I felt so compassionate towards her. I felt so much compassion towards her. And I also felt really proud of her for like, wow, like she has been doing all of this. And here I was out in these streets criticizing and judging her and being mean to her without recognizing that's what I was doing, but that's what I was doing, you know? And I started to feel protective towards her, and I just wanted to let her rest. And I wanted her to be herself. Like, I wanted her to have joy. Like, little Sable being herself is enjoying the sunlight and singing really loudly and just having play in her life, you know, not overwhelmed and overcome with safety, like with safety issues, right? Which even in that, recognizing that, I forgave myself because little Sable was running the show and doing all of this work because she didn't know anything else. I didn't know anything else. This has literally been the best that she could do and that I could do until until today. And so so that was just like, it really did blow me away. I was like in constant conversation with those parts of me. And from there, like, this is my new strategy. This is how I talk to, comfort, and listen to little Sable. I get still. I take deep breaths. And if I'm in a space that allows, I close my eyes. And that's the beautiful thing about this strategy is I literally can do it whenever, wherever I am at, and no one has to know. Like, I could even be in a crowded room, and if something's going on, I can drop in and check in with myself. I can check in with her. But I get still, deep breaths, I close my eyes, I look for her. Like, it's hard to describe. I close my eyes and I look within and I look for her presence. I look for her energy, and I wait for her to appear. And when I do find her, I listen. I listen to learn how she's feeling and what she's thinking. Sometimes she has words, sometimes she doesn't, but I can feel it. It's like I can feel the emotion. I can feel what it is she's trying to say. And then, you know, I repeat back to her what I understood. And I thank her for her courage. I thank her for her efforts. And most importantly, I thank her for allowing me to see her, which she is super grateful for, because this is new, because it wasn't always safe for her to be seen in this way. And so she really is grateful. Like, she really is so happy that it's safe for her to appear and to let me know what's going on. I let her know that she's been so brave. I tell her, after listening to how she's feeling and what she's thinking, I tell her what's true for us today. And I let her know what is not true anymore. And I acknowledge what it used to be. And I just really, I'm like, yeah, that was really, I acknowledge what it used to be and how she experienced it. Like, that was scary. That was this, and that's not where we are anymore. This is what's true for us now. I ask her, what does she need to rest? You know, and she is calm and quiet, but also kind of spunky. And so sometimes she's like, the conversation is enough. Sometimes she wants a nap. Sometimes she wants to watch something from childhood. Sometimes she wants to, you know, get in the garden and like feel the dirt in her hands. Sometimes she just wants to sing loudly, badly, you know. Sometimes she wants to dance, you know. And then I tell her, I got this. And I hug her and I hold her and I let her play in the sun. And what that does for me is it actually does this whole interaction with little Sable, where I listen to her, talk to her, and comfort her. It does several amazing things. The first thing that it does is it actually gives me amazing clarity on what I need to do to honor her. And even more than that clarity, it makes me unafraid to do what I need to do to honor her. It makes me unafraid of the story that blocked me from showing up from her. It makes it easier for me to challenge the story that made me feel overwhelmed, that made me frustrated, that made me judgmental of little Sable, and made me judgmental of little Sable doing things throughout my life to protect me. It also really, Nedra Tawwab has this, she's written 2 amazing books like that have actually changed my life about boundaries. And one of the new concepts about boundaries that she had that I really like is internal boundaries, like boundaries you have with yourself. And like in terms of how you will or won't talk to yourself, or how you will or won't treat yourself. And having this interaction with little Sable, it really strengthens my internal boundary for no self-criticism, because I feel protective of little Sable and I feel connected to what she deserves. And I know she doesn't deserve that shit. She doesn't deserve that criticism. And for some reason, it just feels so much easier and so much more accessible to care for myself when I think about myself as that little girl. And I think that was okay. Like when I had this aha moment and I tried this on as a strategy and I used it, and it was hard for me to have compassion for the me in the present, the adult Sable, I could, even no matter how hard that was, I could always have compassion for little Sable. And being able to do that, like still practice compassion for the parts of me I could have compassion for, carried me through to a present where now it's easy for me to have compassion for any and all versions of myself in the present. You know, I know and believe I deserve my own self-compassion now, not just little me. And I also couldn't have got there if I hadn't accepted that that's what I had the capacity for at the time, you know? So yeah, that's, I just like little Sable. That's my boo. I love that little girl. And I love what loving her has brought to my life, and like the wholeness, and how loving and tending to this one part has made me more whole. Which feels important to name, because I think in some self-help spaces, it's like, maybe it's, I don't know if it's toxic positivity, but I think there can be, it can be easy to should yourself for not doing the healing thing right away, especially since in our culture, we have this misconception that like, if our mind knows, then every other parts of our conscious being should fall in line. And that's just literally not what it is. Like, humans know that polluting the ocean and cutting down rainforests and like eating other types of cancerous foods is going to kill us. Is that changing our actions as a society? No. So it's more than just the knowing that's going on. But yeah, that's my strategy. Is so near and dear to my heart. And this is also part of the like reason why it's interesting. Doing this strategy has kind of opened and deepened my own like spiritual practice, which was very unexpected. I was not looking for that, but I found it along the way. And it also, it after I finished this process, this is the way I described it. I felt so at peace and with myself. Like, I feel like, yeah, I was just like in conversation with myself, connected to spirit, so much so that being around people in that time period actually like annoyed me, because I felt like I was constantly being interrupted because I was in conversation with myself. And I knew that shit was me. I knew I was the one that changed, because there's no way the entire world changed like this overnight. And I have that feeling, but that feeling really only shows up if I am not in a space or with people that honor me and that are for me. And if I haven't tuned into my needs. Like, I could love you to death, but if I need to do something for me, then I can't talk right now. And when I attend to that need and I return to you in the space after that, then, like, now I can be fully present. It doesn't feel like I'm being interrupted, because I took care of who I needed to take care of first, you know? And so that it just feels so good to like have this be true. I feel so much peace in this relationship with myself. And so it's an invitation. This is an invitation to try it, but also to share, because I know I didn't invent this. This is not a wheel. I'm not testifying to the wheel being made for the first time. Okay. I'm really curious about your own relationship with your little self. Like this video if you relate to it. Drop in the comments what that relationship with yourself is like. But I also invite you to try it if you haven't like had this conversation with yourself in moments of like distress, in moments of overwhelm. I just found that it makes it so much easier for me to be loyal to myself, right? Like when I check in with little Sable, literally anyone else's BS around me does not fucking matter. And it just feels so wild to say, because I just remember this intense preoccupation with everything except for me. You know, how everyone else is feeling, what they'll think about me, what I'm gonna lose, all this other stuff. And this relationship with myself has cut through that. It's amazing. So yeah, I invite you to try the strategy, and I'd love to know what it's like for you. As you try this strategy, as always, please observe with non-judgment. You know, you can't do this wrong. You can't do this wrong. You can't think wrong thoughts. You can't feel wrong feelings. It's all valuable information about the truth of where you are in this moment in time, and there ain't a damn thing wrong with that. And then reflect on what you learned and figure out along the way, you know? So yeah, thank you for joining me. 100 Days of Truth, day 26, and episode 21. Yeah, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.